best interest to be the target of any country in the area that's going to drop bombs on it. Nor do I think it's in anybody's interest to have, Israel have access to unilateral nuclear weapons, which some people say they've already used in Syria. Is that right?
No, they haven't used that, but they have nuclear weapons, and if there's a player in the region or even worldwide that would use nuclear weapon in an heartbeat, it would be Israel. The interest of Israel in the Syria business is to have another country next to them completely wrecked. That's the interest. And Israel has a lot of power on through AIPAC on U.S. foreign policy, and it's been the case for decades. The only U.S. president that was fighting this was actually Jimmy Carter, and he still does. But since Reagan, one president after another have always served in the region more or less the interest of Israel, not necessarily the interest of America.
And yet we have to ask ourselves, and even Yuri Avni, who was on Palestine Today yesterday, we have to ask ourselves, why don't the American people, why aren't we sufficiently informed about our interest in this regard?
Because the media doesn't tell us about it. Some years ago, I did an article for a magazine that's called Lies of Our Times. I was doing research for an article on U.S. aid to Israel, and I found out that, for example, for the 8 years before I wrote the article, the New York Times had not written one word about U.S. aid to Israel. When AIPAC sends letters to the president, for example, when President Obama came into office, within a few weeks, he had letters from the Senate and the House signed by 3/4 of the members of the Senate and 3/4 of the members of the House, drafted by AIPAC, because the House letter had AIPAC's logo.
I just have to say again, in the interest of trying to break through a lot of dialogue and a lot of talking that's been going on for decades, and in interest to break through, I think we really need to define who is AIPAC. And in some ways, I'm feeling that it's not right to call that Israel. That isn't right. AIPAC is something way bigger than Israel. And if America didn't have nuclear weapons situated there and, other places, some say North Korea, some kind of deal between Israel and North Korea for nuclear weapons. I mean, this stuff is way supersedes any nation or state stuff. This is international business type stuff. It doesn't even, and then we put a fake name on a country that, Saudi Arabia and the Queen of England invented, such as the Balkan states. I mean, we just put fake names on it so that we can sell weapons everywhere and agitate for war and turn ethnic peoples and tribes against each other and sell both sides of them weapons.
That's what
on that topic, Roseanne, on the topic of war as a business, I just want to point out that the biggest weapon dealer in the world is, of course, the United States of America, with around 34%.
And number two is the British, the throne, England. They're number two.
No, actually, I'm sorry to correct you on that. Russia is number 2. Then Germany is number 3. Then the UK is number 4. China is 5, and France is 6.
Oh, thank you for correcting me. Thank you.
That's okay, Roseanne.
Roseanne, one thing, AIPAC and the lobby get their power from making sure that Israel is a belligerent country. Should Israel, for some reason, make agreements with their neighbors, with the Palestinians, whatever the agreements are, in which Israel could no longer be perceived as being under siege, the lobby would collapse. And this is
that's what I'm pushing for, because why should we be fighting? Why should we be fighting with our cousins so that Cheney and Wolfowitz and all these guys, they have those names and they talk about they love Israel, But they're all rich guys that hang out with Bandar the Prince. None of them would spend 2 minutes with any of us on the ground.
Well,
They're not my cousins, but I want to say that Jeffrey Blankfort was a member of AIPAC, so I think he knows the ins and outs.
I joined AIPAC very briefly to go to one of their meetings.
I love that, and I really want to talk about that because, it is in American interest to keep Israel as a belligerent country and a military base.
It's in the interest of people it's interest of the lobby like AIPAC and the arms manufacturers, but not, of course, of the American people. But the American people aren't taken into consideration when they're talking about world policy and the bottom line.
Well, neither are any people. The people over there aren't taken into consideration either.
And they're the ones dying.
And one of 5 Israelis lives in poverty, so they always say, they always are talking about, but it's just like, public money being transferred into private pockets because, they're in the business of war.
Exactly. And it's war on the back of all the people, of everybody in the Middle East and elsewhere. I mean, the region is a complete wreck. There's bombs exploding now in Lebanon, everywhere. It's just, the situation of Iraq 10 years later is a nightmare.
It has something to do with Russia, too, because when, they're talking about, the former USSR, but, when they're talking about that Bandar says he's in control of the Chechens and their brand of terrorism, and, my God, he's in AIPAC.
He has his own AIPAC. He's his Saudi PAC.
It's just crazy.
Saudi Arabia is right now working sort of in conjunction in a strange way with Israel, but that will not last. It is temporary. The alliance is temporary.
Right. Well, what can we do? I like to ask this question. What's the best thing that could happen?
Right now, every American needs to do what they possibly can to stop Obama from bombing Syria, because this could be, as Gilbert said, a trigger to something so catastrophic that what's happening now will seem like a garden party.
I completely agree with Jeff, and I'm actually trying to do exactly the same thing as far as the pseudo-socialist president of France is concerned, because France has turned into now not the poodle of America, but more the Rottweiler, and it is just pathetic. And I completely agree. Everybody should try to make sure that it doesn't happen, because it is opening a can of worm of absolutely that nobody can even comprehend. It's
opening a radioactive can of worms.
Okay, we have 2 more minutes, so can we have some final thoughts?
Yeah.
30 seconds, 30 seconds for Gilbert and Jeff, each.
Gilbert?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I'll simply say that it is really essential that in the absence of an anti-war movement, which we don't have, people need to get their friends to really put the kind of pressure on members of Congress. This may be the most important vote these members of Congress ever take. And those who will vote for war have to make sure be known that they're not going to get reelected in 2016. And there's a very good chance this time that people with the Tea Party will also be aligned with those people anti-war and cross political lines on this issue, which is right
and
now
Gilbert?
I completely concur with Jeff. I think it's a unique opportunity for libertarian, green, and the real left in America to unite against this absolute stupidity. And I would also say that pushing for a political solution of this crisis in Syria is the only way about. and it's got to include absolutely all parties, and which is Assad, of course, but
Roseanne?
also Iran.
Roseanne, you're
Well,
fine.
I'd like to say that the Queen of England's the only person that can call NATO to war, and I hope she doesn't. And I hope she, even though she pretends that she's not, she has her arms everywhere, and so she is enriched when it happens. To the people in the Middle East, everywhere, I just wish we could start talking, work on labor issues, work on working a bi-state economy for two states, which are now, Israel, Palestine. Let's stop playing this old game that doesn't work and invent new ones that do work for everybody, for peace. Okay, that's me. Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kathleen. You were great today.
You're great,
Thanks,
Roseanne.
everyone.
See you guys later. Thank you very much.
You're on board KCAA.